Hi there, I'm Heir-eyeth.
Hi there, I'm Heir-eyeth. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to introduce you to a piece of my heart. Today I'm going to introduce you to Hiraeth. Hiraeth is a Welsh word which literally means a homesickness for a place to which you cannot return, perhaps a place that no longer exists. There isn't a good English translation for that word, and I don't think that any other word encompasses what bereaved parents feel. It's deeper than words. It's beyond what we can convey with our vocabulary. In 2007, our daughter Keely passed away just before her birth, and she was our second child. We only had one other child at the time. We went on to have 6 children total. And in January of 2016, as I was preparing to deliver our 6th and final child, we knew that she would be our last. She would be our grand finale. We knew that because I wanted a huge family. I wanted 9 or 10, maybe more. My husband wanted 2, so 6 was our compromise. We knew going into that pregnancy with her that she would be our last. And I was haunted by the fact that I would never have an image of all of our children. And it was something that I thought a lot about. And Keely is very much a part of our lives, very much a part of our daily life, our family life. And we talk about her freely and openly. Among our children and ourselves. Anybody who's met me longer than 10 minutes probably knows about her. She's very much a part of our lives as much as our living children are. And to not be able to put a portrait on my wall of all of my children together hurts. Represent her in all of our family pictures in some way. With a teddy bear, with a blanket, with a picture of her. But a lot of times those are more passive ways to include her. You have to be looking for her. People who know me and people who love me look for her the way I do. I wanted people who didn't know her to be able to see her, who didn't know about her to be able to point her out in an image. I wanted a picture on my wall that showed everybody my heart. And I thought about that a lot throughout that pregnancy, and as we got closer to her birth, I considered the idea of just a reflection. And it started as this little seed. I wanted her as a reflection, representing that she is always with. She's with every single one of our kids in a different way. She's with each of our kids in a different way, the same way they're intertwined in each other. A smile, a laugh, a joke. All these little ways, these little relationships that they build among themselves. The most painful part is that we don't know which it is. We don't know what her laugh would sound like, or what her interest would be, what inside jokes she'd have with her brothers and sisters. And there's nothing we can do about that. But the more I thought about it, I felt like there was something that I could do for the visual part. Something to be able to put on the wall, and it need not be explained. That's just all of my children right there before you. And the idea of a reflection kept coming up. And as I considered how she's intertwined among her siblings and what she might look like, as bereaved parents, I know I have a very distinct image in my mind of what she would look like now. And that's evolved over the years as she would have evolved and changed and grown. And I worried that I would get, as I got further out from her, that I would get further out from feeling like I understood her. And that has not happened at all. It's very her. And a lot of times we'll be shopping and a piece of clothing or a game, something will stand out to both my husband and myself, and we'll go, Keely, that's Keely. She would have, and it's not necessarily something that I would like, because we all know that our kids don't necessarily like what we want them to like or what we like, but it's just something that seems like her. And I love those moments, especially if it's something that I wouldn't necessarily pick out, because that means that it's beyond me. It's beyond my comprehension, that it's just a connection. So that was a long-winded way of explaining how Hiraeth came about. A few months after our youngest daughter was born, we went out to a friend's pond, and I photographed all of my children in stair-step order. And then I photographed each of my living children in the space where Keely would be. And I took these images home, not 100% sure what I was going to do with them. But I sat down at the computer and it just worked. And I built an image that included all of my babies. And when I backed up and looked at it, it took my breath away. I built it. Every pixel was touched by me. And to back up and see my babies there together, there are no words for it. And at the time, I'd never even heard the word Heer-eyeth, so there was no way to explain those feelings. And I loved it from the moment I saw it, and that's the number one thing in art that you're not supposed to do, in photography, in competition, that you're not supposed to do, is get too close, too emotional, and many, many times that is impossible, hard to do at best. But I let myself go there because I felt like this was important. And from that moment, it started to snowball into a project, and very quickly thereafter, I posted on social media. I talked to some of my friends that I had known through the Miss Foundation, through a support group, that all of our children had passed around the same time. We had gone through the deep waters together, and I knew their babies just the way they knew Keely. We knew each other's stories, and we knew those intricate details about each other's lives and about each other's grief. That allowed me to go to a place that is a hard place to go to emotionally, but I felt like it was therapy. It was important, and to be able to pass that feeling that I had to someone else is probably the greatest thing I'll do in my career. It felt important. It felt like a big deal. And it is not something that I took lightly in any way. So over the course of 4 years, my family and I travel significantly. My family and I travel a lot. We were all over the US, and thanks to social media, I was able to connect with these friends. And first of all, I got to see these people that I'd never met in person. We'd support each other via email and support groups online, all these various ways, but we got to give each other a hug and see each other face to face and create these images. Each of our children that we miss so much are built out of the living siblings that carry on their legacy. Each image is interlaced with Easter eggs, as my kids like to call them. You see in movies little things that you might not notice the first time you watch, but when you notice them, they mean something. They're intentional, and every pixel in every image is completely intentional. And in this series of videos, I'm going to take you through those to point out the little things that you might miss or that you might not completely understand. And we're going to go through the building of these beautiful children and tell their stories. One of the things that rings true for most bereaved parents is that there's an overwhelming concern that your children will be forgotten, that their story won't be told. And I'm going to do everything in my power to tell these stories the best way that I know how, which is through the camera. So this series of videos is going to go through each image deeply and discuss every color that was used, every thought that went into every movement that I added or created or captured with my camera. And every bit of it is important. Every bit of it means something. And I'm going to go through those with you to help you understand. It took 4 years and 4 months. These are my notes in that time. This little notebook traveled with me everywhere and told the stories, helped me tell the stories that you're going to be a part of by being the audience. The viewers are as important as anything here because you are taking a piece of these babies in, and every single one of these babies will have a part of my heart forever. Now, Keely's original photograph, our original photograph of our children, it was kind of experimental. I hadn't really gotten into the meat of intricacies of tucking those little pieces of story in there. So I capped the project. I had 19 completed, and then I capped the project with another image of my children. 4 years and 4 months had passed, and I had a weird, uneven number of images. So to make it an even 20, I included another one of my children that they are the beginning and the end. They are my beginning and end. And I wanted to see how much they had grown, how much she would have grown, should have grown. And I wanted to be able to tuck some Easter eggs into that image too, the way I had for other people. Also in this notebook are the printouts of a questionnaire. At the end of the project, as I was wrapping things up and deciding how I was going to tie everything together, I sent out a questionnaire for each family with what I thought would be simple black and white answers. And then you came to the last one, and almost every single person in the project with that last question needed to take a minute, needed to take a day or a couple days or a couple weeks and consider what you want people to know about your story. And I'm going to read over those when we go over each image as well, so that you can see what's so important to these moms and dads that you know about their child. And I noticed that as the questionnaires were coming back, everybody needed a minute with that one. And as I read them as they came in, I understood that and made perfect sense. As I was typing them up to get them for the gallery opening, I realized I hadn't done my own. And then I needed a few days. I needed a few minutes to really let it marinate on what I wanted the legacy to be for this image for my child. And it's an important part of the image, the words to go with it. It's an important thing. So this is the one that started, this is the image that started the whole project. This was our experiment. We weren't completely sure that anything would come of it. When I shot the pictures, I wasn't completely sure what I was going to do with them, how it was going to work. In my head, and when it's described, it would be very easy for a project like this to come off as cheesy or overreaching, unnatural. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be beautiful, a beautiful family portrait that needed no explanation. And I wanted it to be natural. These children are a natural part of our families, of our everyday life, and I wanted that to be visually natural as well. So in knowing in my head what I felt like she would look like at this age, I was able to take pieces of each sibling and bring them together. And a lot of times it was almost like it was out of my hands. It came together beautifully. And each piece was altered a little bit because she would have her own flavor. but there is a piece of her within each sibling and a piece of her siblings all within her. And they came together much more naturally than I anticipated. And they made sense visually much easier than I anticipated. This image has evolved through the years. I have continued to tweak it a little bit, and that was hard to do with this project wrapping up. It debuted at the gallery of the Monroe Convention Center August 7th, 2020, after 4 years and 4 months. And the hardest thing to do was to get out of that editing headspace to where I wanted to keep adjusting it and just let them be. And I finally am able to just let this one be and be able to sit back and enjoy it. And when we got this one framed, I said, you know, someday, Lord willing, I'll be moving to the nursing home, and that's the only thing that I know for sure that I need to take, because it's got all of my babies there. So I'm going to do one of these every day or every couple of days and delve really deeply into the intricacies of each image and the intricacies of each story and each child and each life, and share those with you so that you can see what we see easily every day. So thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe so that you see when new videos arrive. Thanks.
Subscribe to my mommy. Please.